Hello.
Howdy! It's us again! We're here to do verses! Woohoo! And we're doing... Well, you show it because you're your choice.
We're doing Kiss music from The Elder.
This is mine. It looks just the same.
Almost.
Almost. It's a little bit different. A bit. So what you got to say about this?
Well, Music from The Elder was a concept album that Kiss did in 1981. And they had sort of lost some of their fan base at this point. And they had Bob Ezrin produce it, which he had also produced Destroyer. And he had just got done producing Pink Floyd The Wall, which was a pretty good hit for Pink Floyd. So they thought, well, we'll have him do The Elder, and it'll be, a similar type situation. But it was not. It's the one time, or at least the one obvious time, that Kiss tried to please their critics more than their fans. And their fans had already sort of was scratching their head at this point, because for The Elder they had Unmasked album, which was like a pure pop album, right after Dynasty with the big disco hit I Was Made for Loving You, which I like all that stuff, But,
Me too. I love all that stuff.
But a lot of the hardcore fans, they were losing over the years because they kept trying different things and it just wasn't working for everyone, I guess. But so they had changed their look and they had cut their hair. They were trying that new romantic look that was popular in the early 80s, like with Adam and the Ants and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I didn't like it at all.
And they had Lou Reed write a lot of the songs with this, and it was based on a concept that Gene Simmons had. It was a short story. And if the album had done well, they were going to tour for it, but it didn't even do well enough for them to tour. If it had, they was going to tour. There was talk of a sequel album and a movie based on this was the so-called soundtrack to that movie that was never made. So I wish it would have, taken off, because then we would have had a sequel to it. We would have had a tour. We would have had a movie. I would have been all for that. I, sort of imagined what that would be like, but it's never to be. So
the basis of this record is it's a concept record, which means it tells a story from beginning to the end of this record. Every single song furthers the story. With me loving books and stories and all that stuff, this is one of my favorite Kiss records. So, there were several different presses of this. Mm-hmm. And, he actually has more than one copy of this record. I have one.
Yeah, I have one that has the actual paper inner sleeve with the lyrics. And there were so many variations of the inner sleeves and the everything else. And there's that was rumored to be Paul Stanley's hand. But then I've also heard that he said it's not.
So with with the first pressings and second pressings, and so the songs got out of order because they were trying to make it seem as if it wasn't a story. It was a rock record, a good rock record. But so with which his copy that he has right here has the songs out of order.
This is the wrong order. Starts off with The Oath, which was a pretty straightforward Kiss song, pretty rockin' song, and that this is not the original order that they started in, because they weren't selling, I guess, so they had to reprint them in a different order. They thought that would help, I suppose.
So, and this is my copy, just gatefold as well, and the songs are in the correct order on mine.
Which is also for the remaster and the reissue is the correct order, that order.
So, the whole concept of this record is Paul plays a character who is supposed to be finding himself, so to speak. And the first song introduces his character as a boy, and he's traveling to this other place on a boat, so to speak. And he meets Gene's character, who is going to turn him into a man. So the whole thing, it takes you through that. Him transforming from a boy to a man, and how the world would like use you from your innocence into manhood that is like you learn life, so therefore you've got your grit and your ridge, and there's good and there's evil and there's bad and there's good and all that stuff. So it takes you through that whole thing, and Paul and Gene and Ace all have characters, but Peter does not. And in the end,
Peter's not even on the album.
Well, that's true.
It was their car.
That's true. That's true. I'm sorry. So at the end, basically, we have a hero, and Paul discovers that the last song on the album is I, and Paul discovers that it's better to love yourself for who you are rather than allow the world around you to dictate who you should be. And that's the basics.
Is that too much?
No, I'll be happy to read a story.
This is on the inside of the gatefold. It's explaining.
It says, when the earth was young, they were already old. Since the dawn of time, the elder have watched silently over the virgin world and all its creatures. Now they have assumed the form of mortals, so that they might walk amongst men and guide them. The elder are an ideal. They embody the wisdom of ages. Thank you. That would be better if I had my glasses on. Oh, I can see. And the power of goodness and knowledge. So they're kind of like the Greek gods. But the elder were not alone in the beginning, and are not alone still. Another force has existed eternally. In every place, in every time, an evil is loosed, whose sole purpose is to destroy all that is good. And in every time and in every place, it is the task of the elder to find and train a warrior, a champion, to conquer the evil. As the looming clouds gather, the council of the elder sits at their ancient table under the sign of the rose. Once again, they must combat the evil that is lurking in darkness and spreading throughout the world. They await the world from Morpheus, the caretaker, whether the boy be deemed ready for the sacred rite of accession to the Order of the Rose, and for the pronouncement of his sacred duty. The Odyssey begins. And that is pretty much it in a nutshell. So, I absolutely love this record. I really honestly do. Again, it's a story from beginning to end if you have the songs in right order.
And it has a door on the cover, and she likes doors.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I do have this thing about doors. So
Cat sneezed.
Bless you, Phantom. So There are some really, if you want to tear the record apart and criticize each song, there are some really, really fantastic songs on here. Some that really didn't get very popular at all, and some that, like, there's a song, everybody knows the song Hero. And,
World Without Heroes.
Yeah, everybody knows that song.
That was the first single they had a video for.
And, that's a great song, but
it was very rarely played because Kiss at that time, they were still in makeup and they were considered dinosaurs, and MTV was new and very rarely played that video. I think it premiered on Solid Gold before it was on MTV, I think. I'm not positive. But
Solid Gold.
And I think they only had 2 videos. They had I was the second single. I think that's the only 2 singles. In America, at least.
He would know.
I don't know everything.
Yeah, it does. Anyway, so I think that pretty much, if you like Kiss, it's not a typical Kiss record. But with Kiss, and you would have to agree with this, with Kiss, you never know what you're going to get.
Well,
because they've done so many different things.
A lot of people know Kiss as...
There's really nothing typical.
A casual fan would just know Kiss as they wear makeup and they play Rock and Roll All Night. That's, and they might know a couple other songs, but they've followed the trends and they've tried different things as far as sounds and image. And some fans would agree that they should have to keep going, and some fans would agree that they shouldn't have. So it just depends. I mean, you can't please everyone. And I think with...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I honestly think if they hadn't have, they would have died.
Probably. There's a lot of things if they hadn't done, they wouldn't have lasted. Mm-hmm. It's just like with getting new members and stuff, with the makeup, the concept, what they did then and what they did now worked for then, and maybe it wouldn't work now if they tried the same thing, but with different characters, I mean. But the Elder, the music is probably the most, it's the farthest thing from 70s Kiss. The first 3 or 4 albums in Kiss Alive and even Destroyer was the first time they experimented with anything other than just the regular rock and roll, and Bob Ezrin produced that. And so I guess Bob Ezrin was so strung out on drugs when he helped produce The Elder that it was just they actually in interviews have said that it's a lot of different things, that they're not proud of this record. A lot of fans love it from beginning to end, but Kiss seems to want to hide it. They want to seem to... Actually, when they started to do the reissues in '98, they were considering leaving it out of the discography and not even reissuing it. Which would have been
a tragedy.
Yeah, it would have just been really dumb, because I'm not saying they should be proud of it, but, well, what Paul always says, he said it's a good album, it's just not a good Kiss album. Because it doesn't sound like Kiss, other than the fact that if you're familiar with Paul and Gene's voice, and Ace does one song, you'll know their voices. But aside from that, it has orchestration, and it has spoken parts, and it has a lot of falsetto, it has a lot of choruses, and it's a lot of... it's not what Kiss is known for. It's not what people know Kiss when they think of what people know now. I mean, a lot of fans, newer fans, if they're not deep into their catalog, they're not aware of albums like The Elder and Unmasked and even Dynasty, or some of the later 80s albums they did without makeup and stuff. That's funny, because with or without makeup, it doesn't change the music. They decided to do that. A lot of people said, well, when you did The Elder, why didn't you, if the music was so drastically different, why didn't you take the makeup off at that point? And I think they wanted to, or I think Paul wanted to, and they had to make a couple more years of struggling with their album sales and their fan base before they realized that that's the only thing that was going to save them. Because The Elder was such a shock to their fans that the next album, Creatures of the Night, was the poorest selling Kiss album ever. And they were going for a real heavy metal sound to try to gain back a lot of their core audience, but it was too late. They'd already been, people had done wrote them off and moved on to, I don't know, Van Halen or whatever was popular at that time.
Well, I think that it shows their versatility. Each time they do something different, a different type of genre, it shows that they really are musicians and that they're versatile, that they don't have to play just one type of music, that they can go in any direction, and it takes them a good musician, a great musician, to be able to pull that off. I mean, that's just my opinion.
I just think that they knew they were doing it for the wrong reasons, to please the critics. And they've always said, we're not a critics band, we do what we want to do. And then they turn around and try to do The Elder for that reason. So I think that's why Paul and Gene have such a problem with the album. You know, and they lost Peter the year and a half before that. And, you know, Eric Carr he came in on the Unmasked tour. And when they went into the studio, he wanted to do a real rock and roll record. And they did The Elder, and it was like, he was so disenchanted with it. It's like, is this a rock band? And then Ace had left shortly after, because he hated it so much. So it's funny that the creators of the album were the ones that hated, and the fans, not all the fans, but I'd say 50 to 60% of Kiss fans, if I had to guesstimate, would love the album.
It's one of my faves. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. So check it out if you haven't heard it, or if you see it somewhere, buy it on CD or go to YouTube and listen to the whole thing. It's in different versions, I'm sure, on YouTube. First track, if you want to listen to it in the correct order, the first track should be Fanfare, which is just a little instrumental starting point. And then after that it goes into Just a Boy. So that's the real order. And then the other order will start off with The Oath, which is that rocking tune.
Which is way down here in the right order.
But the thing I like about the album when it came out on reissue, they released it back in the, 90s when CDs first started coming out, or late 80s, and I bought a copy of it because I'd never had it. I'd never heard it, never seen it for years. And I listened to it, and it sounded pretty crappy, but I thought, I didn't know what CDs were supposed to sound like. It wasn't done right. I don't know what you call it, the levels weren't right when they transferred it, or it wasn't a remaster, I'm not sure. But once I finally got the reissue the right way, that was done the right way, the remastered CD, and then later the vinyl, you could hear, if you listen to it in order, you can hear like chanting in between the songs, and you hear a lot of things that you wouldn't normally hear. Even me, I'd heard it and listened to it for years, but you just didn't hear all that stuff because it wasn't clear enough in the mix. So, yeah.
That's that. I guess to end this video, I'm gonna rate this album. I would give this one actually 9 out of 10 spins.
Well, I'd give it 10 out of 10.
He always gives it 10 out of 10.
I don't have to explain why. It's pretty obvious why.
Yeah. So next time on Versus will be my choice. And he's about to hit me. Just forgive him, okay? We're going to do Hellstorm, Into the Wild. So that's what our choice. That's what we'll be reviewing next time. Hellstorm, Into the Wild. That's their most recent release. So that's it for this Versus. Hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your comments below. Please subscribe to both of us if you do not. We love talking with you guys and finding out things we didn't know and informing things you guys didn't know. So, thanks for watching. Hope you're having a great summer. We'll talk to you soon.